Invincible has taken Amazon by storm. Aside from the animation, I mean, come on, Amazon, I can drag a PNG across the screen. You need to pay your people. Invincible is a really good show, but it has absolutely blown up on YouTube. Even small creators are getting thousands of views. So, as a small creator, I'd like to get some of that, of course. But that question, though, why has it captured so much of Gen Z? Why has it become so big and popular? Is it just the memes and storytelling, or is it something deeper? So, let's look into it. First, I think it's pretty obvious that Invincible has hit pretty well with young men, particularly on YouTube. So I'm not going to defend that point. But the big question to me is, why did a comic book that was created back in 2003, and at this point who was directed by Robert Kirkman, who is 46, why is that hit so much with Gen Z, with 20 somethings? Why is that connected? So when thinking about this, I actually saw a lot of similarities between Gen Z and Invincible. So in this, we'll be talking about some big things like Mark and Gen Z's split identities, Invincible and Zoomers coming of age, the shared loss of innocence we both have, and Invincible and Gen Z's struggle to be better. First, some surface level similarities. Most people on YouTube are going to be under the age of 40, and it particularly seems to skew male. And so it should be no surprise that a show about a young man, it seems to be hitting a bag, especially one that's a superhero, right? That seems kind of obvious. But more than that, though, there's got to be something deeper here because there are plenty of properties about young men and particularly young men with superpowers. But why is this hit in particular? And one big thing is I think that the concept of split identities is something that we as Gen Z, we as Zoomers really feel and that we can relate to. What do I mean by that? Well, there are several elements to this. First, of course, Invincible is a superhero, and not only is a superhero, but he's also a normal person. This is a trope we've seen a million times, having the alter ego. But the deeper part, the different part that I think is him being tossed between the Viltrumite part, his Viltrumite heritage, and his Earth heritage. Why is this interesting? Well, I think a lot of us in particular, being born in the 2000s, late 1990s, we feel this caught in time, this pull between the new world, the future, and what's going on here, and trying to be better, trying to learn from things, trying to get better, and the past, and boomers, and history. I'll give you a great example. Some friends of ours, we were out to lunch with them one day, and we got to talking about something really interesting. And we're talking about how they went to Hawaii, and during Hawaii, they were speaking with some of the tour guides, and the tour guides were explaining that some of the best work that they've had, and they got a chance to show their culture to different people. However, sadly, that was one of the few jobs that were available after it was settled and colonized by so many Europeans and Americans, of course. And why was that brought up? Like, what was the interesting part? Well, she expressed how that was something that she felt embarrassed about, that she was guilty of, that she had caused this to people, that she as a white person was kind of benefiting from this, and she felt kind of stuck between. And I think we as Gen Z feel that in a lot of ways. Like we're somewhat, in many cases, privileged for a lot of the things that have come before, and yet also trying to do the best we can going forward and not doing those same injustices. I think there's another part to it that's really interesting too, and that is the kind of split identities of being online and what the online world does to us. I think you when you go online and you have an account with something, what's the first thing you do? Well, you have to put your username. And what is that username? Well, it's splitting this identity. It's you so often feeling like you're another person online. You're looking after your passion, looking into your passion. You're working on something that interests you. So in the real world, you go to your job or you hang out with some of your friends, but in the online world, you're able to focus on the things that you really care about, the things that really matter to you. You're able to go onto Reddit, the obscure subreddit you're interested in. You're able to watch all the YouTube niches that you like a lot. And in that world, to some degree, you are your most unique self. You are your most you. And again, it goes to this concept of split identities, of feeling like you're tossed between two different people, two different people. One person of the things that you're really interested in, and sometimes even feel you are more you in those contexts. Like, for instance, Mark feeling like he is more himself when he's invincible. And then the opposite end, feeling like you have to keep your other life a little bit separate. You know, you're going to work and they don't really know that you're interested in this obscure thing or that obscure thing, and they wouldn't really get it if you talk to them about it. And it's that same concept of split identities. But there's even deeper ways that there are overlaps here. And we'll talk about the next one, which is coming of age. What do I mean by coming of age or coming of age stories? Well, as we can see, Mark, he goes on this arc, this story arc of changing as a person, growing into himself. And one of those parts is his discovery of his superpowers. And that's one pit stop on the way of him coming of age, of him maturing. And along with that was this discovery of his Viltrumite powers. Well, I feel like a lot of us have had that same feeling when we were younger, and in our teenage years as well. Some of us it was a little younger, some of us it was a little older. But I still remember when I was young, maybe 12, 13, something in that range, of when I got my first smartphone, and I felt like I could do anything. I could get this app and that app, and I just felt like I was the coolest little 12-year-old in the world because I could do so much. And I think we've all had that experience from time to time when we were growing up, of feeling like no one really understands how to deal with this technology, or no one understands how to do this or do that, or look this up, or be able to find this application or code this. A lot of people did not have that, and we felt like we could. And a lot of our generation has grown up with that realization of that hitting us, of having that new power with technology, that new interest. But with that, though, sadly comes the opposite, which is the thing that we liked when we were younger, when we were more innocent, more naive, when when Angry Birds was like the epitome, when Smash Brothers was like the coolest thing ever. Back then, we felt like there was nothing we could not do. And now, slowly but surely, that positivity has been drained from us. That positivity has been taken away by the very thing that made us feel powerful and feel cool and feel like we could do it. That those same things are the things that have oftentimes made us feel most alone. Those same things are oftentimes the things that have made us feel most incompetent, most unable to do things, most like we don't measure up to all the people on Instagram or whatever our friends were doing. And it's all of those things that have sapped us. And by the way, that's just on a micro level with us and our friends. That's not even talking about how the algorithm serves us up all this negativity, or how all the things that seem to go viral seem to be negative news stories and negative things and negative headlines and all this negativity. And so the things that have given us power and made us feel like we could do so much more than our parents, like we could do so much more than our uncles or our aunts, those same things that we were growing up and excited about are the same things that end up taking away a lot of our joy, taking away a lot of our positivity. And the same thing happened for Mark with his superpowers. The things that at first he was flying around so excited that he could be like his father. And then what happened? Well, slowly but surely he realized what a weight those powers were, what a responsibility they were, and how scared he was he would do the wrong thing with it. And so it's the very thing that he took joy in was the thing that often took away that joy, took away that positivity. One of the biggest aspects of coming of age is a loss of innocence. And I talked about this in one of my other videos on Luigi Mangione, but you can see this here with Mark in the last 2 episodes of season 1. And you can see the total change, the total way that he was shattered when he realized the truth about his father, the truth about what it meant to be a Viltrumite. And that change in him mimics, I think, the same thing that has happened to a lot of us, that we've had, like most people, like most kids, grew up naive and innocent and hopeful, and there's something that changed for us. For some of us, it's a personal catastrophe. A terrible thing happened to our health or someone we loved. For some people, it was COVID. There are a lot of different things, but I feel like for a lot of our generation, there was something that happened, and it could have been even slowly over time, but something happened that seemed to take away that innocence, that took away that belief that things would work out in the end, that belief that people were out to help us, that our parents or parental figures or those we looked up to were actually good, that they wanted the same things we wanted. And with that realization came what Invincible goes through in the next season, and that is this feeling of depression, this desperation, this feeling of despondence, I love that I'm picking on the D words here, but that's exactly what it is. He's like going through the down in the dumps in this between season 1 and season 2, and that's where we get into our last point, which is the struggle to be better. I think the other part that Invincible does a great job of showcasing is that we as a generation and as people, we want to be better than the people who came before us. We want to be better than the terrible examples we've seen in the past, and once again, Mark is this magnification on steroids of the same things we're going through. This feeling like we were betrayed, or some of the values we thought we believed in, that we thought were real, that we thought were correct and right, and everyone agreed with, turns out not to be the case, or turns out to be different, or we're stripped of that innocence. And with that last episode, like I said, he goes down in the dumps. He goes through this depressive period. And that's where he reemerges, doing his best, trying his hardest to be better than his father, to be a better version of what it means to be a human and a Viltrumite. And that's what we have. We're tossed between, just like everyone, this twofold heritage, the best things that we've inherited, the best things that we have. And that is, some of the values that we've learned, some of the things that we look at the world and we want to change and make better. We inherited those because those didn't come from nowhere. But while simultaneously we inherited some of the bad things, some of the bad influences of our upbringing, of our culture, of where we're at, of just the circumstances that we've had. And so in that, we're doing our best, just like Mark, to try to be better than our parents and the other generations, to be better than some of the poor examples of our generation. And I think that's the biggest crown jewel, as it were, of why Mark hits home with us, of why Invincible really hits home with us, because he goes through the arc that we have. This feeling of, well, we have so much power, we have the ability to do so much, this feeling of opportunity, and then losing that, having that sapped from us as we've gotten older. He's dealt with this feeling of having split identities, like he's both a superhero and he is a normal person. He's both a Viltrumite and a human. He's dealt with that just like how we have when all our hobbies are online, when all of our interests are elsewhere and then the real world. Yes, it matters to us in a lot of ways, but there are elements of who we are that don't show up with our friends that we talk to. And while the other elements online that we do feel a part of, we're not able to show our full selves. And then you get to this coming of age, this loss of innocence that we were just talking about, this feeling of, I thought the world was one way and now it's completely different. And many of the people I looked up to, many of the issues that I believed in weren't how I thought they were. And then finally, the most important part that I think drives it home is this want, this craving to be better, to be a better version of humanity, to be a better version of an American, of a person, of a man, whatever the case may be, but a better version than what we've seen in the past. And that's where you see him in, I believe it's the first episode of season 2, where he gets instantly defensive, instantly upset when Cecil says, "You're not your father." And he's like, "Why would you even bring that up?" It's because that's such a touchy subject for us. It's such a touchy subject, not just for him, but it magnifies what we're dealing with. That's the same reason why it might be touchy sometimes when we're compared to our parents, or when we're compared to the past. You can see that same urge to get better and to be a better version with how he protects his family, and with how he looks out for Oliver in the later seasons, and he looks out for his mom. Because unlike his father, that was incredibly crucial to him. That was so important, because his family is who he is, and that's a way that he could differentiate himself and show that his values were more important than that of his father. So that's a look into how Invincible, or at least my interpretation as to why Invincible, has really struck a huge chord with Gen Z, specifically young men. I try to tie some similar elements to who we are and what we're dealing with, and how Invincible and Mark is basically a magnified version of who we are, the struggles that are deep within us. So thanks for looking into it, and I'll see you in the next one.